All right. It's just on the top of the hour, 10 o'clock on this Tuesday. My name is Bill Corcoran, and my colleague Rob Long will be joining us, and we'll introduce ourselves more in a moment, and we'll get today's session started. All right. So thank you for taking the time to join us on this live stream for our parent support session. We had one yesterday, and it went really well, and we got lots of questions that we are using to embed into this session for today. And so my name is Bill Corcoran, and my colleague Rob Long will pop on in a second. And we both work for the Learning Technologies Department, and our role in our department is that we are teachers, and we are using this time here to support our community. So we support our students, we support our teachers and our staff, and we support the parent community in this instance as we work on this big transition to virtual learning in this case. And you may be joining if you got the information and you've already been in virtual learning up until this point. So we look forward to taking the time today to support you as best we can in this transition. And it's new for everybody, and people are coming in. So we'll talk about a little bit about that as we move forward. So again, welcome and thank you. So a couple of things that we're going to kind of look at as we move forward. This is our agenda. We will be sharing the slide deck out afterwards, and we will be sharing some resources through the virtual schools as well. So if we do move a little bit too quickly or you need to reference any of the material in here, we will do our best to continue to support. At the bottom, you will see that there are opportunities for questions. tinyurl.com, and it is case sensitive, so uppercase OCSB tech questions all together. And we will show that in a bigger screen. We will be monitoring as best we can the questions throughout this piece. And near the end, we'll try to find some time, and we've allocated some time to answer some of the questions. Anything that is lingering, we will definitely communicate to our colleagues in partnership with the virtual learning and virtual elementary programs and academies, so that we know we are working all on the same page to support you. So things like OCSB student.ca accounts, their Chrome profiles, the student portals, Hapara Workspace and student dashboard, and the parent portals and digital forms as we move through. Before that, it's important for us to respectfully acknowledge that our board is located on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded Indigenous territory of the Algonquin peoples, on whose territory we pray, learn, play, and work. And as we come together at this very busy time in all of our lives, at home, at school, at work, we take a moment to ground ourselves or just reflect, take a breath, and we will come together in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of hope, comfort and restore all who suffer in body, mind, or spirit. May they know the power of your healing love. Make us willing agents of your compassion. Strengthen us as we share in making people whole. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so right now I mentioned that my colleague in the Learning Technologies Department, Rob, is on the call with us today. So I'm going to pass it over to him for the next couple of slides.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome this morning. I just want to highlight again at the bottom of the screen here that if you would like to put in a question, and I'd love to see one come in just to make sure this is all working, at tinyurl.com/capital O, capital C, capital S, capital B, tech, TECH questions. So if you get in there, it gives you a little form and you can enter a question and it'll pop up on a spreadsheet that we're watching live. So one of the things that I wanted to just make sure all of you are aware, and I'm sure a lot of you are new parents to this. Well, we're new to this too, as a school board and as hundreds of teachers and thousands of kids moving into these virtual schools that we've created to support kids working at home. I just wanted to highlight that it is new. It's new for you. It's new for us too, because we haven't been doing this, and the teachers teaching in these programs haven't been doing that either. So they are shifting everything they've been doing, sometimes for several years, and into a whole new mode. So how they deliver to students, how they and we manage technology with students, how those teachers can do assessment without the kids in front of them. This is all different for us. And so you've seen changes like final exams in high schools no longer exist right now. So things like that have moved because of the way that we actually have to work and interact with kids in this virtual fashion. How teachers are communicating with parents and also how they're communicating with students is completely different. How they even manage a class when the kids aren't there, and how do they manage behaviors when it's virtual and they're on video. So some of those things we have to rely too on parents to help us with because the teachers aren't there. And sometimes there are bad behaviors happening in some of our classes, and the teachers can address it somewhat and they can talk to parents about it. But sometimes, if parents are in the house and stuff, it is helpful that you're aware of what your kids are doing while they're there. Um, how we're offering all of our content now online in a virtual mode, it's all digital. So this is a big shift for, again, many parents, students, and staff. And we'll introduce our portals and things where a lot of that sits. And just how we manage staff now in general, and moving them between schools because there are shifts happening right now. So we're moving everybody. We're moving a bunch more staff into virtual, and we're also moving kids back into brick and mortar too. So there's things are happening both ways, and it is a huge time of transition for us. So I just want everybody to be aware that we are under lots of pressure making these shifts. It isn't trivial for us, and moving thousands of kids is a very manual process for us. Actually, we put them into our software systems, but moving all those kids, understanding who's going to teach them, where the French teacher is, which sections they need, this is all something individuals have to do. It doesn't happen just magically in software systems. We actually have to look at each and every student, each and every class and teacher. And it takes a really long time, and we have a bunch of staff working really hard at it to make that happen. We think everybody's going to be placed today, and we believe that every teacher now should be able to contact their kids today. I think we've achieved that. According to the staff, they said we achieved it. We should be good to go today. So hopefully you'll hear from your teacher at the latest today so that everybody is good and ready to go tomorrow. Bill, can you shift slides? So for you as parents, again, reflecting, this is very new for everybody. You've got a new teacher. Hopefully that you get that message today. Again, remember that your child has a brand new teacher. There's going to be new kids that they're going to have to interact with in class. So this is a period of change for everybody, the teacher, the kids, and you. The teacher may be brand new and not have done this yet. So they may be starting right now. And so this is very new to those teachers. So do be understanding a little bit about this. It's a big shift and it's a lot of work for them. Attendance is a big thing. We do have kids that turn off their cameras and walk away and other things. So we can do our best as teaching staff to keep attendance and try and keep that up to date. But again, they are at home and we don't have as much direct line of sight to them, and sometimes to their behavior. So sometimes we can ask for help from parents on that particular area. The kids, because they're online, do need access to technology. So hopefully that's all set. And our preferred device is a Chromebook because it gives better direct access and control for teachers when they are online. But it could be a PC, it could be a Mac, and we're going to tell you about how to log into those most effectively with student profiles. And Bill's going to show you that in a little while so that we and the teacher can maintain good control over that environment and help better interact with that student. They also need internet. And so that's an important piece. They have to have that device ready to go. We have to have internet in the home for this to all work. Interrupt class time is a big thing for teachers. When teachers are teaching, parents, don't walk into their class and just interrupt what they're doing. And now that they're at home, we ask that you try to maintain that as well. I know at times you're going to have troubles and struggles, with things, maybe with the technology, but the time isn't during class time to actually bring that forward because there's going to be about 30 other kids in that class and it's very disruptive for everybody else. So unfortunately, I know you may be having trouble at that point in time, but please try and hold it till the end of the class and then have a connect with the teacher at that time and not while the teacher's in a synchronous mode with the class. We would appreciate that. Your teacher is your primary point of contact for support. So if anything goes wrong, again, after class time, do contact that teacher and look for that support. That teacher can always reach out to other resources to get other types of support. If you have anything right now, questions or whatever, please put them in the doc. Okay, so we got one in today, so that's good. So doc is there and working. Thank you, Nicola, for doing that. And again, at the bottom of each slide, until we get into some live demos, which will be soon, you're going to see this tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions. So please think of any questions you have, and we'd be happy to answer them. And we will take some of them will work in, but we'll take time at the end to answer every question that we possibly can. Your devices that you have in your house, it's going to be typically a Mac, a PC, or a Chromebook. We recommend keyboarded devices. We also recommend touch devices over Macs for what we're doing in our learning environment, because we will be pushing out Android apps onto the Chrome environments. And so that's useful to have as a touch environment in those particular cases, because like on your phones or iPads or whatever, these are designed with touch interfaces. So that touch screen is an important piece. And if you're looking for a device, we do recommend touch for kids and learning, because some of the interactives that we're going to introduce online are touch designed. If you have a board device, then again, your teacher is your first point of contact, and those devices we can support at the school because they're board devices. So they will likely ask for an exchange in that case, if there's an issue. And otherwise, it's best effort, but we do not have the scale to support every single device in every family out there. So the board devices we are committed to directly supporting. On the internet side, we are recommending that you look at your internet and just double check to make sure you're going to be solid, but we recommend about 10 megabits per second on a download. Most internet you purchase, you can't get as low as 10. So it should not be an issue in a home if you have internet in, but it is something for you to double check, especially if you're finding that your video isn't working awesome, or if you have multiple people now. Maybe it was just you at home before working, and now you have two kids as well as you. They're both going to be on video calls. That's going to take more bandwidth. So just be aware. And one of the things you can do is just Google speed test. And if you Google that, it'll come up with a little window where you can actually push a button usually and just run a speed test. It should say 10 per person kind of. So let's say you had 3 people working at home. Hopefully it'll say 30 megabits. That would be a good number to have if all 3 of you plan to be on things like video at the same time. So that's just a heads up for you guys. So again, any questions? It's at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll try and get to those. And otherwise, it's back to Bill.
Thanks, Rob. And as you're monitoring the questions, Rob, if you can, feel free when I'll pause and you can try to embed them into our live demo pieces as well. But thank you for that and setting the stage for us in terms of knowing that it's new for everyone. It doesn't take the stress away for everyone and their kids and their home life, and with virtual for our staff and ourselves and just all around. We just know that we're going to end in with a viewpoint that we know it's new, and we're going to communicate to the proper channels, make sure it's working. So the goal of today is to help support the parent community in supporting their child in being successful and getting on as quickly as we can. So like Rob mentioned, here's the tiny URL, and feel free to enter those questions as he mentioned. So my first slide that I'm going to show you is a link, and we're going to share the slide deck to you, but the at the top, samaritans.ocsb.ca is a website URL that you could use. So if you are writing things down or typing in email addresses, right, or not email, but URL addresses, that is a live website. I'm going to click on it in a second. But what Samaritans on the Digital Road is, it's a created resource by our board that helps support students and our parent community and our staff community, so the whole OCSB community, to develop and support their digital citizenship skills. So this is a K-12 and parent community, and we work closely with our Catholic Parents Association, so CSPA, to ensure that we try to get these out to our parents as well. So I'm going to click in there, and we do have the slide deck, and I will kind of go in and out of the slide deck, but I know that the feedback is that we want to show you as much live demo as we can. So I'm going to click on the link, and it's going to bring me to this website right here. And this is the samaritans.ocsb.ca website. Now, there's a lot of information there. And so we're not going to go through the whole site right now, but I am going to model where we would go to find some supporting information to the slides that we're talking about today, and in probably a little bit more detail for sure. And so if I scroll over to the top of the banner and I hover over the word parents, there's a secondary line here that says student use of technology in the OCSB. When I click on that and it loads in, there's a lot of text right now, but I'm just going to point you to a couple things that this is the order roughly that we're going to be going in for this session today. We're going to review the student accounts, which is most likely your child in a brick and mortar school transitioning to virtual might have already has their OCSBstudent.ca Google email account that they log into. This is the one they would log into a Chromebook or their account to get to Google Drive. So if you have that, that's good. If not, we'll talk about what you can do to get it. We do get questions about how Google and regular Gmail, signing up for Gmail is, and the comparable to G Suite for Education, which we're in. And so there is a link in there that talks about how these policies and so forth. And maybe Rob, I'll when we get to that point, you can jump in and just elaborate on the Google for EDU. So if you want to pop on at that point. And then some information about the student portals, which we'll talk about, Chrome profiles, a program called Hapara Highlights, a software that we use as part of our Hapara suite of learning tools for teachers, and then things we do within YouTube accounts to make sure that everybody is safe in our community, and in this case, the students, as we support them in these skills. So when I go back to the slide deck and I go to the next slide, this is what I was referring to in terms of your child's at OCSBstudent.ca Google account. And so when they join in kindergarten, they are given, and at different points in time, maybe not the first school day of September, but they are created a OCSBstudent.ca Gmail account, which is theirs as they go through from K to 12. And this is an account that they are to use for learning. It is an OCSB account for them to learn with. And it would typically follow at the bottom their first name dot last name at OCSBstudent.ca. And what that means is that in most cases that would be unique, but sometimes there may be a couple names that overlap. And so you would know that from talking to your classroom teacher. It may be first name dot last name 1 at OCSBstudent.ca, but that's a unique scenario. And then the password, if you have a password currently and you're in their account and you need it changed, you would go to the classroom teacher and request a password change. If you've never received a password, this is your first time logging into the account, it still needs to be reset, so to speak. And then the classroom teacher would be able to give you that password. If there is a suggested password, that would be great because maybe your child has a favorite animal and a number or something like that. As long as the teacher's part of this conversation, they might be able to accommodate that request. But again, it goes through the classroom teacher in that case. And so this piece just talks about the classroom teacher piece as well as we get into that component. So maybe I'll use this chance, Rob, to jump into just talk about, we're in the Google sort of domain. What's that comparable to just a regular Gmail to Google for EDU? Just the microphone.
One of the things we do get asked about is some of the security and other things around Google and the Google education domain that we have. So just so folks understand, when we set these up, and now for us, it's been like 10 years. When we set these up, it was about 1 or 2 years in, because we were kind of the first board to move into Google. We worked with the Ministry of Education in Ontario and other school boards and lawyers to set up a deeper dive legal contract with Google. So as you go into the education domain, we have other contracts with Google on how we handle and store and remove data so that it meets our Ontario requirements. We have many legal requirements as a school board to retain or not retain data as it may be. And so to follow those, we have deeper legal agreements with Google. It is a fairly common question, but yes, within our domain, when we delete data, it's deleted. and these are legal requirements on the Google side. So we do get asked that. Otherwise, we signed up with Google because it's a highly collaborative environment. And it's one of the environments, too, that we signed up for some of the equity reasons because it is free to everybody. So within our domain here at the board, it's free, but it's also a free environment when students leave. So if you have a Gmail account and you want to use things like Docs or spreadsheets or all those things that are there, those are freely available to everybody. And so part of the issue was an equity issue. We want to make sure everybody had these tools, whether they're at school or at home or when they leave school. And they were available because they're in the cloud on any device. So you didn't have to buy a particular device. So it was more equitable arrangement to go down this path.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. And again, some of those components that we do get asked questions about are on that Samaritan site, just in terms of, none of that data is used to sell anything. It's not shared. Everything is internal on our servers. So if there are some questions, and the document is there. Okay, so one of the things that we do get also talked about when we talk about security is the difference between Chrome profiles and what it means to use a Chromebook versus a PC or a Mac. One of the items that we're going to talk about later on in this session, not too far away, but is a program, or in the software, a feature called Hapara Highlights. And in the Chrome profile piece, I'm going to bring up a student account. It's going to be busy on the screen right now. But this is my favorite student, and I say that jokingly because this is student 17, and student 17 is a fake student account that we use to model such sessions such as this. And so you can see that it mimics a lot of the things that you might see. I've pulled up a school website, which is the Guardian Angel School website, but you would be familiar with the school that your your home school that your child is transferring from. And this is just an opportunity for see how we would access the student portal if it already isn't popping up on your device. But for the purpose of this discussion, before we talk about the student portals, is the difference between a Google Chrome profile and being logged into Google. And so I'm just going to open up another tab in this case. And I'm going to go to, it opened up to Google right off the bat, which is great. You will see at the top right of my screen, and it might be harder to see when I'm screen sharing on a Meet such as this, but I have two areas in which this image is showing for student 17. You can see student 17 is logged in here, and student 17 is logged in here. So first of all, I'm using the Google Chrome browser. I've downloaded it and made sure it was on my device. If this is a PC or a Mac, if it's a Chromebook, you would be using that browser by logging into the Chromebook itself. When I look up here and I click on this icon, and right now, if you're using a certain device, and it may show a letter or an image based on initials that you are logging into. But when I click on it, it should say that you are logged in and you are syncing some information. If you're not logged in, that's okay if you're in your account, but for your student, your child, I should say, when they're trying to interact with the student portal, meaning trying to use those softwares that Rob will speak with in just a few moments, being logged into the Google Chrome profile for them will allow them to be more successful and to access things like the things that we're going to show you in a few moments, as well as the opportunity with Hapara and so forth. But you can see on here, and these are just some examples, that I have different students that I can toggle, or different accounts, I should say, that I can toggle between. And that means that if I went to my own Gmail, if I went into a different student, it would open up separate browsers and keep those accounts separate. So that's how I would typically toggle through. So I am on my PC right now, and I do have my own OCSB account open. I also have student 17 open at the same time, and they are being isolated as separate. But I will show you some of the issues that does happen. Is that one, since I'm in the profile of a student right now, and if my son or daughter was at the table and walked away for a break, and I came in and I opened up a browser and I typed in a banking website, and I opened those type of things and did that piece. I'm going to be talking about highlights later and how we can keep those situations separate. Some people like to click on this icon and add other accounts. So it looks very similar, but this is being logged into Google. This is not being logged into your Google Chrome profile and is not solving the scenario of what we'll show you in highlights after. So the key thing is Google Chrome profile. You can add accounts here and keep them separate. And when we talk about highlights, that will be a little bit more clear for you as we go through. We also have a video linked to the slide deck about keeping Google Chrome profile separate, and there will be communication from the virtual schools about the program I call highlights and what that truly means, and what with some specific examples to make it more clear for you. But I will flip over and I can open two portals. If you want to speak to the student portals, Rob, for a second, and I'll
All right, so Bill's opened up the K26 portal, and we'll highlight a few things. At the top, you're going to see the access to HAPRA. So that's where students are going to find their workspaces, and teachers are putting work for students, resources, other things that you're going to do on a daily basis are in HAPRA. So you'll see those there. Then we have the kind of core Google suite across here, and we have Meet. So your video meets that you're going to be on every day are going to be right there as well. So that's going to be the core kind of create work environment is at the top line. Then we have the resources that teachers are going to rely on to support the curriculum that they're going to be introducing to your child. So that's the rest of the site here. We've highlighted some in red and in blue so that you can see math or French or things too. And literacy is down here in yellow. Some of the big ones too that you're going to need perhaps on an ongoing basis that you may want to use outside of the classroom time especially are things like Sora, which is a library. So Sora is right there. It's got a little flying person. That exists on all of our applications, including our phones and things like that. You can get on Android or Apple. And in there, it's a full library. So there's many thousands of books in there. So if you're looking for books for your kids and the libraries are closed and you want to still get access to safe environments for them to go and read, then that's a really good place to go is Sora, which is our online library. You'll probably be using math applications, so those are going to be in blue. And if you're in K-3, then you're going to use Orbits. If you're in grade 4, 5, 6 in elementary, you'll use Mathletics all the way up to grade 8. And then it switches into MathSpace, which is mostly a high school-based 9 to 12 environment, which is on there as well right now. French supports are there. So you'll see all of this on the portal. The high school portal is a little bit more busy. So there's more applications for high school as we have to cover more subject areas. Then you're going to see more content on here. So again, across the top are our core things. We added a few more complex ones up there for high school kids. But again, it's the same kind of basis. They have Sora and everything on here for a high school library version. We're going to come back here later when we introduce forms for you, and we'll walk you through that as well. So when your students boot up into Chrome in their actual student profile, it's going to come up by default in the browser to these portals. So it should be very simple for them to get to. They log into their Chromebook or onto their PC into Chrome. When that browser comes up, the default setting is bring up this screen so that they have access to all their content. Anything else, Bill?
No, I think that's great. We'll come back, like you said, for the forms, and we'll kind of use some of the examples on how it might look for their child when we start showing the tools on how they can support their child in getting into the first couple of days of virtual school. And so I'm just going to move back from student 17 for a second, and I'm going to, we just talked about the portals, great. And then a little bit about Google Meet. So on the slide, again, the questions, if they're coming in, I'm going to show you a couple of things. There are some need to knows for your child on getting into the information we're about to say. So a lot of these meets, obviously, we're going to meet virtually using Google Meet now, part of the Google suite of tools. And so I'm going to bring back student 17, and we're going to show you what that looks like from that account that pops up for your child. And so like Rob mentioned, when you log in, it should pop up automatically. And that's a great tool. So when they log into their Chrome profile, it's defaulted to open. And so let's say it's the morning time. I've just logged into the student on my Chromebook or my PC Mac in my account. And this opens up when we hit Chrome for that your student account and your child's account. And then how do I get to the actual Meet? So that's the first logistic right now. We want to make sure that you are getting into that Google Meet right now. So for the Google Meet, there are different options that exist, but for the day of, for today, your child, this is student 17, would come in and click on the Google Meet icon and or the letters, the words below it, and you click on it, and what it will do is it will bring you to a launching point to join the Meet from this page. What it's only showing you is events that are for this day in specific, or in the later on today. But if it's in the past, it may not show. So if you had a 9 meeting, and it was 9 to 9:30, and it's now 10:30, it might not show because it's in the past. But it's also not showing the events for tomorrow, and I'll show you what that means. So we have the parent session today, and then we have the test calendar invite, which is not a unique name, but I just wanted to show you that there would be another event later on today for that child. This is what the teacher, your child's teacher, has created in a Google Calendar and shared with your child. So these are ones that would show up in an event that the child would enter into. So if the student came in and they clicked on this icon, what it would do, it would bring them to a page that looks like this. And I'm going to shut off the video and the camera right now because you have that option in entering in. Some people like to blur their background or to change the background in their accounts, and that's really fun for our students and for our staff. You can tell on this one, I have books in the background. That is not my typical setup. But you all see that they could turn off the microphone and turn off the camera and then join. You can see in this case that myself and Rob and the communications are already in the call, and the teacher may have set up some logistics into their account that you may only be able to enter, and you should be only able to enter once the teacher's in there. And then you could click join now and you'd be in with your class. And of course, then all the logistics of how the teacher would want to run the class, how they would communicate either by chat or a hands up or anything like that. That's all things that the classroom teacher would create with your child, those expectations, same as they would do in a physical brick and mortar school classroom as well. So I'm just going to X out of this one because that's one way you could look into it. Some people like to look ahead to make sure that they have the links for tomorrow in the future. And if your child or you with your child clicked on the calendar link, you would see that this one right here, there is the event we talk about. We're in the middle of that one right now. There's the test calendar invite, but it did not show Wednesday the 18th, both events. It only showed that day, like I mentioned, but this is a way for us to look and make sure that they have the link for the next couple of days. But for your child on that day, knowing that they have the links, just clicking on the Google Meet icon is simple, and it gets them right to what they need. There's one piece that I had on my notes that we talked about the security features with the Gmail accounts. The one thing I mentioned, the other layer that we have at the K26 level within Gmail is that those accounts are fenced in. And so what that means is that only OCSB staff and students can communicate to OCSB staff and students at the K-6 student level, meaning that they can't email out to you and you wouldn't be able to email out into them. So that's one piece that I wanted to remind ourselves up, and that at the K-6 level. And then of course we open that up as part of the gradual release of responsibility, so to speak. That's more tech education term. But so when they get to grade 7, they're continuing to learn with these tools as they move forward in those higher grades with a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more leeway, but still support as part of this program. All right, so I'm just going to bring that back. So we just talked about Google Meet. Did I miss anything on Google Meet there, Rob, from where it's on?
No, on the fencing, I just want parents to know that some teachers will choose to work on more global projects, and they may choose in elementary to request access that's broader. So there are occasional classes where it does get opened up based on a teacher request. So they can change that, and very occasionally they do.
Yeah, and if that was the case, they would communicate that with you just so everybody we were able to be there to support them in that time. Okay, so we do have that piece, the synchronous learning. I think we're in there. And then we're talking a little bit about Hapara. So I'll bring back um, the student 17 window in front of you. And basically, we're continuing to stay along that top line. This is a very it's purposely put across the top line because of how much the students do use in that area on a given day. And so Hapara Workspace and Student Dashboard, there is a slide on when I go back that I will refer you to, is that there are to talk about the language of Hapara versus Google Drive. In a lot of cases, you'll look for language from your classroom teacher that they say it's in your Hapara Workspace. If they say it's in your Google Drive, that's a different place, and you would enter into Google Drive for that mean. But in a lot of cases, the teachers would say it's in your Hapara Workspace, and in that case, your child would log in that day and would click on Workspace and Student Dashboard. This is kind of a combined piece. The Student Dashboard is going to pop up, which leads you to a workspace or workspaces. When I click on that icon or the link, it's going to load in and it's going to look kind of busy for you initially. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what this is. And I'm going to show you just basically what you might be looking for if you're talking to your child and saying, okay, what is it that you have coming up? Can you tell me? So they're logged in, you come up and have a conversation with them. So what you're seeing is all the classes at the top. Your child could narrow down. So this is the student dashboard of Hapara, not Workspace yet. You can see workspaces, but we're not in one yet. And you can narrow down by class and see different items. You can continue go between different subjects, or it's preferential. You can leave all the classes. So that's helpful if the student needs just to get in. And but it is also helpful if you wanted to narrow it down, because maybe on the first day of school it's not as busy, but maybe after a couple months it's very busy. On the left-hand side, which is another great feature, is that there is a to-do list. Now, every teacher uses Workspace a bit differently, and not every task has an assigned date. So this is helpful for some that actually have an assigned date. So I'll click on that. And what you see is, again, all classes. And you can see that this child has, this student 17 child has some things that they need to submit. Maybe they've done it, they just haven't submitted it. So it doesn't mean that they haven't done their work. So maybe they just need to submit. And I'll show you an example of that. And upcoming due dates here. And this is for all your classes. Again, if you click on one and you toggle it down, you can see that it does narrow it down to be more specific. So that's helpful. So I'm going to reset myself to all classes. And I'm going to click on Workspaces for the purpose of today. I have created as a teacher and shared now with student 17 a virtual parent live stream workspace. So this is what I'm showing you right now. This is an example of what your child may be working on in an environment. When I click on this environment and it loads in, you will see that there are going to be some constants that appear that are similar between workspaces that your different children may be experiencing, or with different teachers in different school communities. And that's okay, because Workspace is meant to be adaptive and unique for the class that and the teacher that's teaching it, and for the students that are participating in it. But there are columns that you will see here. You may see one column, you may see up to 4 columns, depending on how your teacher is using it. Typically, there'd be goals and resources and evidence, but those might be renamed. And the key thing is that how do you access work, any resources or an article, and then how do you submit work, whether it's given to you as a template or how do you link something. So that's what I'm about to show you in an example for the K-6 section here, but the practice is the same, even if you're joining in and this is to 7 and 12. So in this example, it's not unique to the panel of K-6. So what you're seeing here is one article that you're with an instruction that the teacher may leave some instructions in there. Typically, they also support this with in class, if they're on the synchronous meeting, they may explain this a little bit more for your child. So it's not going to put all the instructions. There might also be, a Google Doc that corresponds with a little bit more information. But if they clicked on this link, they'd be able to open up this article, and that's no different than providing a link in different spaces. Maybe they've read it, maybe they've captured the important information, and then they were asked to do something. And I'm going to show you a couple different options. So it looks like the same task here what was school like 150 years ago reflection, and it says dash group 2, and this one says what was school like 150 years ago, and there's no dash group. And some teachers will use different colors to correspond to different tasks. So again, you might see different colors or headings like we did in here. But the key thing that I wanted to point out today is here that this is individual evidence. So that means if your child clicks on this, they are doing this, and the only people, this task, the only people that have access to this doc, unless it's manually shared after this, would be your child and the classroom teachers. In here, there is group evidence, which I will come back to after I kind of show you that individual evidence piece in the workflow. But you will see that group evidence, and those groups have been already preset. Maybe because I'm highlighting it, I'll speak to it at the moment right now. Who's in the group? Well, your child could look on the side here and expand the group too, and you can see that those are their partners as well. And if they do click and start the activity, this is a shared document. So this would be a collaborative document under group evidence. Under individual evidence, I'm going to click the start button. And even if I have started it, it will come back and I'll show you what it is after we have started it. And this is where we would encourage your child to always come in and access this document and keeping themselves organized. So I'm going to click start. It may take a few moments because right now, because it is individual evidence, it is making a copy of that template that the teacher has created. And in this case, it didn't take that long, but here it is. Now, right now, there's nothing really special about this document, but it also is helpful for the teacher because it keeps everything in one spot for them to help to give feedback and support for your child. In the Google Doc, they could come in, they could add some text, they could add some reflections here or whatever the task was. So again, the task would be explained by your classroom teacher in more clear instructions than I'm showing you here. Let's say they've done this over a week and a half, the teacher's given feedback and they're ready to submit. I'm going to go back to the workspace for the child, and you're going to see that it says the word submit. Now, not every task will involve your child to having to submit, but that would be part of the instructions that your teacher would say, okay, I would like you to submit by the date that's on the card. So is it Friday, November 20th, whatever date that is, or do they want them to submit it along the pace so they can receive feedback? That's a little trigger that the teacher may see. If I submit it, I'm ready for feedback as a student. So student 17 is ready to submit for some feedback. And there's a double layer here. It says, do you want to send work to your teacher? And in that case, it is now submitted. And if I go in as a student, I can still see it. But what's changed now after I've submitted is that it's comment only. And what that means, if you're familiar with Google, is you can only leave comments. You can't no longer type. I'm trying to type in here. It's not working. But if I look at this text and I go to insert a comment, I will be able to add on to my thoughts, maybe right here. As a student, maybe I forgot to put in a sentence or something. And then if the teacher likes it, they can, if it's a minute later, they could say, okay, that's great. They caught before submitting. That's all great. But what if your child submitted it by accident and they weren't done and ready for reflections or feedback? Then you could just reach out to your teacher and they could make it so that it's not submitted anymore and you could continue to edit it. So that's basically the simple piece of that piece. It's Google. Once you click on this link and you use the features, group evidence, and then your task here is something you might see different where your child may have created something in Google because they've given an independent task and a little bit of possibilities from your classroom teacher. If they needed to link something in here, they could click on the Google Drive icon and link something in manually versus having the template created from your classroom teacher. So if you see a box like that, you can link it in, but using Google Drive, if it's in Google, is the best option.
So Bill, there's a question just
Sure.
about the work that they submit. Does it always stay there? Does it disappear? How does that actually work?
Great, thanks. So for that, yeah, it does stay there as long as the workspace is accessible. So as we move forward, but it is in Google Drive. So it is part of their Google Drive suite. So they could search the same title up in their Google Drive. But in terms of using Workspace to access it, yes, it would, even if they've moved on to another unit and a different workspace, the workspace should be accessible. And when they go in, they'd be able to click on it, whether it's submitted or it's not submitted. And again, it would be also the same document title would still be in their Google Drive. Perfect. All right. So from that piece, this is the simplicity. I say it's simplicity, but it's not if you're new to the tool. But for what we need to, we got into a workspace, we accessed the workspace, and then we've submitted, and we've just made sure that they could get it. One of the questions we got yesterday was, I'm on the calendar invite for my Google Meet, but I have not accessed the workspace yet. So with all this information that is changing that we mentioned as a transition from brick and mortar to virtual, is that it's great that your child's email would be part of a big class email group from your teacher, and so they'd be automatically added to calendar invites. But if you are missing anything from Workspace, the teacher might have to manually drag the new name, your child's name, into the group into Workspace. So if you think you're missing something in Workspace, then your child's teacher should manually pull that over on their end of things. There's nothing you would need to do other than communicate that with your classroom teacher. Okay. All right. So I think you asked me a question there, Rob. Is there anything else related just that Hapara piece? Okay.
No, it looks good. I mean, there's one or two other questions in there that are really simple to answer. They had a question back from when we were doing a meet.
Yeah.
And they asked, if a child has an appointment, is there a way to see a Google Meet lecture after the fact, or is it only in real time?
Yeah, so I mean, right now it is in real time. There is opportunities to communicate that with your classroom teacher before that you are there, and maybe there's a component that they could record or they could supply to you in a different format so that you're aware of it. Each one's case by case, but definitely communicate that to your teacher because life does happen. We agree. So in that component, just make sure that they either that or they could give a 2-second instruction afterwards. Yeah, there's many capabilities, but communication's key.
By default, teachers do not record their sessions typically. So if there's a request or something, that's something to discuss with the teacher in particular. Maybe you want one recorded, maybe they do record them all. It depends on the teacher if they're going to do that. You can go back into the calendar and see when all the meets are scheduled. So you always know when they're going to be set up if you look at the calendar. So if the teacher has preset them in advance, then you can always see that schedule. But yes, if a child's going to miss, it is something you could let the teacher know, and they might just record that for you so you have that session to play back later.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything would be communicated if just as part of our digital citizenship curriculum, Samaritans, if I was going to record a session, even a meeting that I have with Rob and some other colleagues, I would always say, I'm going to record this for this one. So you have the opportunity to turn off your mic and your camera if you're not comfortable. But there would always be that disclaimer ahead of time or that practice that would be there from that teacher that we are going to do that, and people are just aware of it.
And there's another question just about submitting and then doesn't review. So yes, if they actually push the button to submit, and then they say, yes, absolutely submit, and then it's submitted, then the student can only make comments. So if the student does go into their document, they can add comments to it and say, oh, I really wanted to do this and say this here and blah, blah, blah. They could add those and say, could you please release this document? The teacher will see those comments, and a teacher can unsubmit it and give it back to the student. But if it's submitted and locked in, that's where it is. They can only add comments to the side. They can't modify the core of the document at that point. Teacher can release it, and they'd have to request that.
That's right. And so usually the teachers, all the time, the teachers are understanding. If it's 2 minutes later, they'll probably just say, okay, that's great. They'll take it into consideration as a positive thing that they caught. But they might also say, well, let's look at your work an extra second next time before you submit it. But they're usually good about either opening it up or acknowledging it in that case. So that's a great question.
And if we go back to the third slide, Bill, I'll just finish the questions real quick. And then we only have like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Timing for when your classes are going to be variable by the teacher again. So the teacher should be getting a hold of you if you're moving to virtual today. So if you have not heard from the teacher today by, let's say, after 1 o'clock, then there's something delayed or something missing. So they should have everybody in and be contacting you today at the latest. So if this afternoon you haven't heard from your teacher for your child in their classes, contact your homeschool and find out to make sure all that transfer and everything happened appropriately. But yes, you should have heard from your teacher about what's going to happen tomorrow by today at the latest. All right.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. You mentioned the third slide. I didn't know which one to go to, but are we just the questions?
Yeah, we're good. That's all the questions.
Perfect. So I'm gonna toggle through a couple one because I know that we're actually taking some well documented time during it to answer questions when it's appropriate in the moment. So that's great. So I'm just we're kind of on track for our hour, and we'll make sure that we're looking through. So there's another thing that I wanted before I pass it on to Rob for the last component about the parent portal and some of the forms. So I'm going to show a couple things. There is a component in. I'm just going to go into my own Apara. And I'm going to click on a class, and I'm going to click on a program called Highlights. But I'm going to bring, while that's loading in, I'm going to bring back, not this one, sorry, those are questions. I clicked on the wrong one. So that's good that we're looking at it. You trust that we're looking at the questions. And so in this case, the student here has a lot of tabs open. So there's a busyness to this. And a lot of them, you could see that, that the child might have had Minecraft open, but you knew that when we were modeling this, it was not being played, that there is a level of it. So when things are virtual and the teacher doesn't have that proximity of walking around the class, and even in the class right now with social distancing, that's not the same practice as before, but there's a little bit easier to tell if somebody's off in terms of being focused on what they're looking at. So this student was on their workspace, but they also had different tabs open and from that component. So I mentioned a program called Highlights, and that's where the student being logged into their Chrome profile and the difference between being logged into your Google account in your child's Chrome profile came into place. So what does that look like at the teacher level? So we want to be transparent that between the hours of 8 and 4 on Monday to Friday, because we're now in a complete virtual environment for some of our parent families, versus previous, it was more on a case-by-case basis. If the student was home for extended periods of time, we would communicate that through the school. But right now, Highlights is something that the teacher can use, one as a positive for the students, opening up links, being able to provide feedback in real time. And when I go to my teacher view, you're going to be able to see that in that case, the teacher will be able to see just the names of the tabs between 8 and 4, Monday to Friday, on their Chrome, the student Chrome account, of the ones that are open, and the one that they're on is bolded. But also it does take a static screenshot of, and what static means is it's only a picture. It's not a live movement of what they're seeing. But in terms of the child, this is also a feature of Highlights, which isn't the main piece for us, but does help with virtual learning, trying to make sure our students are also trying to be on task, like we mentioned, so we can support them, is use this feature. So I'm going to show you a teacher view again. And I'm just going to go down to the groups. Let's see, student 17 group. And you can kind of see the group that I'm looking at right now. And so this is a teacher view. And at the top, these are what we actually use for the most. I'd say a very, very high percentage is what our teachers use this tool for positive. They can send a message saying, great work. I really like how you're doing this. They can send a positive message individually or to a class. They can share a link, opening it up. They could also do some guided browsing. So if they were using an assessment or something and they just wanted them to stay in Google Drive or on that article like I showed you, we opened up with the CBC, then I can't open more tabs. It kind of says, well, you can stay within these ones just for a few moments because you're having trouble focusing or because I'm trying to do an assessment of some sort. You can also see that it has pause screens. So that's great. If I really just wanted, it's kind of the similar, like if I was in the brick and mortar school where I said, everybody, I just want you to put your books down for a second. And in that case, not that everybody has to have eyes up, but they're a little bit less distracted by having their book in front of their face reading at that moment. So this is that pause screen is something that the teachers may use. But you can see right here that I can see student 17, and these were all the tabs that I just showed you in the student view from that component. And in that moment where they were able to see that they are actually on Workspace and they're not on all these ones right here. The teacher, if it was needed, and it's not a common practice for us, could close up these tabs individually, but it's just like if the child was reading in the middle of class, we may ask them, can you please put that book down while we're talking? They will say or send a private message just saying, I see that's on there. I know you're not on that site, which is great, good for you. But they may also say, okay, please make sure that that's maybe something we could use on different time. So normal classroom practices. And what this looks like on a current screen, again, this is the static component. This isn't live TV for anybody, for the teacher. And you can see that right now that it's only replicating every 5 seconds. It might take a little snap of this picture, a little static view for it. And so that's why the documentation that we're going to share for you is if you logged in to a site for your child and you wanted to log in while they're logged into their account, like banking, you might see it switch over in just a few moments. That right now, I haven't done anything. So keeping the Chrome profiles separate. So this is my example. If I walked by and your child went to the washroom, and then you wanted to check your banking for a second, and they were in their Chrome profile, they were learning, they're in Hapara, they're in everything. The Chrome profile piece would be something that would be important for you to understand to be in your own profile in a different tab that is not your child's as well. In a different view. Yeah, in a different window. Yeah, I use that. I caught myself. As soon as I said it, I knew that you were saying it in a different window. So that means that I could open it up. So this means that if I wanted to get out of this piece and I wanted to be in a different window, I could flip over here and change it to student 18. So this might be your personal account. And then you're opening up a complete different window in here where you could function separately than what I was showing you as well. So be in a complete different window, almost like a different browser. So your child's in one browser, you're in the different window, a different browser. And we will have a video of Chrome profiles coming your way. It's also on the slide deck. So that's just part of our transparency as part of this highlights piece. That again, 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, only on your child's account. If you're not in that window browser, you will not, this will not be affecting you at all, but just know that it is there.
And on the flip side, Bill, we do ask that the children do log into a window with their actual student profile for school, because that's important for the teacher to actually maintain that contact and view so that they can share things with the kids, so that they can observe what's going on in the classroom at that time. So they do need to be logged into that window. So that's something else we ask the parents to just check on is, hey, are you actually participating today in a window that you're logged into? And because that is important for the teacher. So the other thing, do you want me to take over here on the parent portal?
Yeah, and I do recognize that in terms of my time on this piece, we did go a bit longer than anticipated, but I think we answered a lot of the questions as well. So I think most people would be understanding that we didn't tag it on to the end out of context. So we're recording, we'll have access to this. So if it's 11 o'clock your time is the time you needed to drop off, we totally respect that. But the link should bring you to this and you'll be able to watch the ending piece. So we'll go over a little bit of time to ensure that you have the information that you need.
And I want to encourage you again, the question link is at the bottom here, tinyurl.com/capitals OCSB, lowercase tech questions. So if you go there and want to ask any questions, we will get back to you right away because we're watching this live. The other thing that we brought forward in June as we went through this COVID period was we brought forward a parent portal to try and deliver to you online in that time, especially report cards. So as we try to remove documents from our system, just because one, people aren't there anymore, and two, it is a touch point that in a pandemic, we don't really want to have. So the parent portal's initial purpose was to give you report cards. And right now we're going through another reporting iteration. So we're having loads of fun with that. And you will, if you're in 1 to 8, then those report cards just came out and should be accessible on the parent portal. If you're in kindergarten, they're coming out tomorrow evening. And if you're in high school, they're coming out on Friday evening. So the parent portal, I'm going to just drive for a sec. And I'm just going to do this and switch this and share. And it's accessible off of the OCSB.ca screen. So if you go to our home site, OCSB.ca, there's a parent drop-down tab, and the parent portal's right on it. So that's an easy way to get there. If you haven't been there for a while or was there in June, we did update that page a little bit. So one of the first things you're going to see is that you can log in right from here. So if you forget where the login page is, it's right up front. And because we're seeing a lot of new parents come in because of this reporting period, we have put here a report a problem right away. So that's a way for you to get support on the parent portal. If you've never been in, then what you need to do is go a little bit further. But we have almost 50,000 parents in. So we're getting near, I think, the max of what we're going to get requested. But you do have to register. And if you click on register, you're going to get a page like this. And in that page, you're going to be asked for some information. This is information we already have and you've given to the schools and we store. We need to be really careful when we sign parents up for this. So we're asking for really specific information that most people just would never know. And so once you enter that, then you're going to get an email to confirm, and then you'll get in. And like I said, if you have trouble right now, just go back to ocsb.ca parent portal and just enter into that form if you're having a problem. And we're working on all those solutions. Sometimes people forget when they signed up with the school what email they gave them, or sometimes when the data was entered, somebody's entering it. Sometimes they make a typo in things so it doesn't match. It has to match exactly. We're being very specific about this security. So that's how you get into the parent portal. And once you're there, then you're going to get access right on the front screen as soon as you log in to the report cards. So that's parent portal. And then if I'm just going to pop back into the slide deck. And if we go, so this is our parent portal and how you sign in. And then we're doing forms as well. So the next slide is about digital forms. So on the parent portal slide, I mentioned forms. And on there, our goal is to put these forms on the parent portal. For now, they're not though. So if you are being asked to sign a couple forms, the two that we have up right now are the media sign off so that your child can have photos and things in the media, and the acceptable use policy. So I'm going to show you that as well. So they're hiding on the student portal. You've seen the student portal several times now. So a way you could get there is, let's say I was on the school site and I wanted to get to the student portal. It's one of the tabs right at the top. Now, the website for your school is open. The student portal is not. So if you're logged into the window as the student, this is going to work. If you're not logged in as the student, this is not going to work. You're going to have to log in. So if I click student portal here, it's going to let me in because it understands I'm logged in already, and it's going to take it. If you're not logged into your window as a student, this will fail, and it's going to challenge you for login credentials. You will have to enter your student's information. So their user ID, which is first name, last name at ocsbstudent.ca, and then their password. So you'll have to know that, or you have to come and get your student to log in. When you come in, you're going to be able to click Forms Portal, and that is going to go to the actual Forms Portal that will show the 3 forms. Now, I'm totally not logged into a student right now, so that's going to fail because I'm logged in as a staff. And they'll pop into 17 or something and just go there, and we'll switch back to you. So if I click on this, because I'm not logged in as a student, you're going to see this type of bounce back, and I'm going to get Bill's got student 17 or 20 up. 20, you got to be in 20 to do this. Yeah. And so we'll show you on the other one. There's just 3 forms on there and how that pops in. And so you will have to be logged in as a student. And part of it is it pre-fills the student information into the form. And so if you have 3 kids, you're actually going to have to log into each of their accounts to sign each of those forms, because it will force a student number in to the form to be specific about which student you're dealing with. And again, it's part of our security protocol to do that. So all forms are there right now that we started to roll out, and more forms will be coming. And hopefully in the new year, we will actually have those forms linked directly off of the parent portal, and it'll be by student again, because we're going to be sending that student information in to this. So you can see here, that was the parent portal. We clicked on one of the forms, and then on that form, it's going to pre-fill the student ID, and the rest of you just need to fill in And because this is our acceptable use, you need to go through, and we've added a few questions to it about attendance at meets and behavior within meets. So behavior when you're online about recording and stuff without permission. So those are a few we've changed because we are changing with virtual schools and having to teach at home. There's some behaviors that we want to highlight that are appropriate or inappropriate. And then down here, just sign off, hit submit, and then you're good to go.
Thanks,
So-
Rob. I'm just going to jump in there for a second because at your home school, this might have been sent home in paper format at the beginning of September when you first got there. That is a common practice. And it's the responsible use agreement. Because you're transitioning to virtual and now we have it in a virtual component, we will be sending information through the virtual schools that it is there. It should be live through your student's account and being able to see that there, Rob. So basically, we do have that, and if you can submit it, but we also don't expect you to go do it tomorrow. You can, but it will be shared via your school. That okay, go ahead, and even if you've done it in September, please do that.
All right, so then we wrap up with the last slide there because you're presenting, and if you can just take them. So there's some supports for you. And one is your parent community through CSPA. So you can always go to the CSPA site and get support. But if you're working in virtual right now with your kids, the core place to go, if you can, do you want me to take over? You're going to go. OCSB.ca is the place to go. So if you go to our core home website for our board, OCSB.ca like that, and this isn't under parents. This is right at the bottom of the screen. So if you scroll down just a little way, you're going to see the virtual school support sites there. So one is for elementary and one is for 7 to 12. And if you go there, you're going to get all the supports you need to really help you. So that's where we're co-locating everything to just help you get going, and tips for you and understanding contacts. All that kind of stuff is there for these new home schools that are virtual because you have no building. So this is a place for you to land. So if you need anything, go there, find out who you need to contact, do all that kind of stuff. It's all on those sites. All right, so we have no new questions in. So this is your last shot to ask any questions. So again, it's at the bottom of the page here. We'll just wait for that share to, stop clicking. We're waiting for that share sign to disappear. There we go. So tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions, and you can throw a few questions in. We will stick around for a couple minutes, but otherwise we're ready to wrap up. We'll stay on 2 minutes just waiting for any other questions to show up, and if nothing shows up, we'll close this off. So I'll start with thank you for attending. We appreciate it. It's going to be a bit of journey at the beginning, especially as you move into virtual academy. So just take it slow. Nothing's the end of the world here. So contact your teacher for support. Look for those support sites online if you have further questions and things that you need answered that your teacher might not be able to answer. And give it a couple days to just roll into this. Okay, so it's a huge shift for us. So don't get too excited. It's okay. It all works out in the end, and it might just take a day or two for things to get flowing perfectly smoothly. And Bill, thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks everybody. Appreciate the great questions and the support that will continue to work in partnership with the virtual schools and through them to you. So thank you, Rob, and thank you everybody for joining today.
We'll stay on a couple minutes in case there's any last minute questions, and then we'll be off. Have a great week, everybody. All right, so some questions are popping in, so I'll start with the first one. I just want to confirm that all notes will be under the student profile, not a parent profile. So, and I'm going to assume that this is HAPRA notes. So in HAPRA, there's no parent involvement in that. It is all student and teacher. So everything done within there is going to be student related. In the student profile, there's no parent profile or anything that can come into that space. So I'm going to assume that's what the question is. And that would be the answer to that. Because a parent, although you're coming in, you can view if you're on their account. There is no parent involvement within the Happerspace. It's all student related.
Yeah, and if it's related to the forms, then currently that's where it is sitting through the student account and eventually would be in the parent account. But for now, just the student account for forms.
All right, do you want to take that one?
I'm just pulling it up. I'm going to stop
Okay.
sharing my screen, I guess, and then I can access it.
So the last question is, if you signed up for virtual and decided to switch, is it possible? I will tell you right now, that is not the desired result that they are looking for. So they've set dates on this. This was the final date to do a switch, and the switch is for the end of the year. So that is the current planning. Having said that, if COVID blows up and we're all at home, we may all be virtual. Who knows? So I say that in the planning that that's what we've put forward. I won't say that things won't change based on situations and stuff. So nothing's ever set, but that is our goal. It is a huge undertaking. In the media and other things, we are put down a little bit on this, but people also don't understand how much effort it actually takes to make these virtual schools and do these switches. It is manual, and we have thousands and thousands of kids to manage on this. It takes a boatload of staff to actually make this, check it, get them started. It is not trivial. So it isn't just, oh, I'm going to switch. No, it's thousands, and it is effort. So I want you to understand that and hopefully be sympathetic in what's happening. It is not a trivial process. So, and that is why we don't encourage this, because it's very difficult. So that's the answer to that. I'm going back. Where's that plus one?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that one. So basically, thanks for the question on, there's a question about in Hapara. I showed you three options of being able to access. One was by individual. There was already a slide deck in there that the student opened up. There was one for a group activity, and the same slide deck could have been opened up. And then there was an open sort of box that had a gray box that you could either link or grab something from your drive. But it was noticed, good eye, that there was a little plus button in that column. And so basically, if your child wanted to add something that they've created, maybe it doesn't fit into any of the boxes that were there, the teacher said, well, why don't you go try this, or go go outside and find something that represents biodiversity, and you've created something and you wanted to share it in there without the teacher having set up a box with nothing in it or a slide deck for them to use. You could click on that plus button, and you could add, your child could add a, we call it evidence of learning. So any work basically into that column, and you could just do that. That would be a fourth option. So that's what that plus button is. So good question. Thank you.
So another question was, how do you get all of your child's emails? So you cannot. This question has come up before, and because we fence them, they also don't have access. You can't go in and forward them or do anything like that. So, and that is part of our safety protocol for our younger kids. The only way you can see those, and we encourage this, is that you have the password and you can get into their account. The teacher also has view of all their email because this is a student account. We don't intend it for private use. It is supposed to be used for their educational environment only. And so teachers can watch those too and just make sure nothing bad is happening on those accounts. So if you want access, and your child's in elementary especially, we encourage you to have that password and actually check things like that if you're worried about that. Again, nothing can go in and out. So they're only going to be getting emails from with other students or teachers. So that's kind of how it's locked down.
There was one, just as a tidbit about the percentage now for online for OCSB. Before this transition, it was just about under a quarter, and now I think it's just a bit over a quarter. So about 25% would be a good approximate for our board of about 45,000.
Yeah, it's in the 25 to 30% of students now.
Yeah, with the shift now, yeah, for sure. A couple more thousand coming in, for sure. Is the added file viewable to everyone, or will it be only viewable to the teacher? So we're talking about if I add a file manually into that column. So it depends. It would not be shared with your classmates, for sure. If you link it in and the permissions have been changed as such as a doc and it was only viewable, if I only give you the link, then the teacher would have viewable. But if I put it in there, it's a part of a communal between the teacher. So the quick answer is just between teacher and child, regardless. But if you put it in by link or by drive, it's a bit different on where it's sitting. So
it does
couple
depend.
cases. Yeah, it does depend, but it's only the question. I think the underlying piece is it's only between teacher and you, unless you add it into something that's already created for a group like that. I guess there's fifth and sixth options. So if the teacher created a box where it said drop your work here, but it was a communal group piece, but that would be clear that it would be communal. So just teacher and child in that instance.
But if it's dragged into the resource column, I think it's open.
Yeah. So we haven't gone there yet. Definitely.
No, it depends which one you're talking about, where the plus was. I don't know, but it depends.
So the plus button in this case is probably evidence column, but there is a plus button in the resource column, and that would be viewable. So if everybody says, I found this great site on, like you said, biodiversity they were talking about, then that would be viewable to others. But the teacher
does have the ability,
the teacher does have the ability to remove that if they do have the overarching capabilities to remove it if it wasn't in the right spot or it wasn't appropriate.
And often, even then, the share permissions on a file usually override almost everything, except the straight submission. But usually, whatever the child sets on the permission share is the kind of trump of almost everything except for an assignment submission to a teacher. So that one will share to a teacher. Okay.
Yeah,
that is all the questions that are in there. We'll wait 30 more seconds just in case that adds. But otherwise, if you want to go, please don't stay on. We're just answering questions that people have. If another one comes in, we'll wait a couple minutes and we'll be gone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, if anybody's still, I'm not looking at a counter anywhere, but if anyone's on and they actually would like more sessions on particular topics, then feel free to add those there, and we will try to arrange those types of PD, professional learning sessions with parents. And if it's on math or literacy or whatever it is, then you can, or the portals or more on HAPRA or whatever you want, we can always look at adding specific sessions to help parents understand those better.
Absolutely. And then if we finish up through this form and you can communicate through the virtual schools, but also the Parents Association, we mentioned CSPA, they work closely with us about trying to advocate on providing sessions for parents, regardless of whether they're in brick and mortar or in virtual schools, because a lot of the concepts are the same. So please reach out to our awesome CSPA team as well, who are in constant communication with us. So that's just another way to get us the feedback.
All right. Well, nothing else has come in, so I think we can call it. And again, we're probably only talking to each other now, but otherwise, thanks everybody. Take care and have a great week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Take care.